Good afternoon. Our main theme for today's webinar is it doesn't have to be complicated for people to accomplish their legacy charitable goals. On behalf of the Foundation for Appalachia, Ohio and its member community funds, I'm honored to welcome you, our friends, donors, professional advisors, community funds, and more. The webinar today is being recorded and will be available for future viewing for you and anyone who may be interested. Together, we are part of a philanthropic family, helping to make sure when there are dreams to give back, that tools, services, information, and partners to the process are readily available. We're excited to have you with us and hopefully with an apple beverage in hand as we share some practical content. Our main goal today is to help respond to the many requests we receive from specific planned giving examples. We also are highlighting just how easy planned giving can be. It doesn't have to be complicated, especially when you work with the FAO as your charitable partner. We thank you so very much for joining us today, and we encourage you to contact us with any future topics or questions you would like us to provide you. A few quick introductions. I'm Mary Beth Wright, FAO's Director of Outreach and President of FAO's Guernsey County Foundation. My teammate, Tracy Mann, and I work together on planned giving outreach and professional advisor tools and research development, like this webinar today. Tracy is FAO's Director of Professional Advisor Services and a CAP certified.
Before I introduce our wonderful guest speaker, just wanted to take a moment to introduce the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio and its community funds. The Foundation for Appalachian Ohio is a community foundation that serves the 32 counties of Appalachian Ohio. Our mission is to create opportunities for Appalachian Ohio citizens and communities by inspiring and supporting philanthropy. One strategy we utilize to achieve our mission is to help counties without a local community foundation to develop and grow one in partnership with FAO. As you can see in our service map, we have several with established community funds at FAO. Mary Beth Wright is a part of the Guernsey County Foundation's leadership team, and our guest speaker is a part of Hocking County Community Foundation's leadership team. FAO takes care of the back administrative and investment services so that the community fund committees can focus on what matters most, lifting up opportunities for their citizens and communities. If you would like more information on any one of these funds or how you or your client can establish a named fund within their family of funds or with FAO, please do not hesitate to contact us. And now, without further ado, I'm so pleased to introduce our guest speaker, Abigail Saving, a partner with Saving and Shepler Law Firm in Hocking County, a member of the American Bar Association, the Ohio State Bar Association, the Hocking County Bar Association, the Fairfield County Bar Association, FAO's Hocking County Community Fund Committee, and other local boards and committees. Abby brings more than 10 years of legal advising experience. Her focuses are real estate, general business law, probate, civil litigation, and estate planning. Thank you so much, Abby, for agreeing to come on today to share a specific story about how you helped your client create his charitable dream within his estate plan and how uncomplicated the process was.
Well, thank you, Tracy, so much for having me. And thank you to everybody on the webinar who's taking their time to tune in today to listen to me fill my own office with a bunch of hot air. It's nice to see all of you wanting to participate to hear what an how easy and breezy charitable giving can be. Being able to present about and encourage charitable gifts in estate planning is a very rewarding role. For those of you who don't know, today is National Apple Day. And that's kind of a nice metaphor for estate planning and charitable giving, because that's much like planting seeds. We plant the seeds when we make our estate plan, and nobody gets to witness the full fruit which will come from the seeds that we plant. Our estate plans are our final communication to our loved ones. They incorporate our hopes for our values and special interests to live on in the fulfillment of our last and often most important charitable dream. Estate planning happens to be one of those tasks that people often put to the back burner. That's because we think we always have tomorrow. We perceive it to be a difficult task. There's many pieces, and knowing where to begin is overwhelming. And let's be very frank here. It can be a touchy subject to discuss because in order for our estate planning to come to fruition, we have to first imagine a day when everybody in the room is dead, which can be a little bit morbid. It's always my goal with an estate plan to help people to understand that putting a plan into place is a gift that you can give to your family, and that completing an estate plan should help to alleviate unnecessary complications that can arise after death. I always feel rewarded when at the conclusion of the estate planning process, I can tell that a client feels that a weight has been lifted. I will share with you today a specific story of a particular client's estate planning process, which will not only demonstrate how easy the process can be, but also how meaningful and positive it can be. I was contacted by this particular client in order to do some estate planning work. I am an attorney in Logan, Ohio, and my practice focuses on real estate work and estate planning work. I'm not sure how this client received my information, but I am fortunate to get referrals from some of the financial advisors in the area. It can be helpful when you're doing an estate plan to include all trusted advisors in the conversation. This way, we can take a 360-degree approach where I, as the estate planning attorney, have all of the information that I need to help the client to make an informed decision about how they want their estate plans to pass. And we can put into place a plan that effectuates their goals during his or her lifetime. Typically, my first step when I'm contacted by a client for estate planning is to send out a checklist that solicits certain information from the client. I have various checklists for various different types of planning situations. When the client calls the office to schedule an appointment, my secretary will ask a few questions to determine which checklist is appropriate, or to determine if I should be asking or soliciting additional information from the client in addition to my typical checklist items. I use an estate planning checklist prior to even meeting with the client because I have found that it gets people thinking about what they want to do with their estate plan, and it helps them to organize their thoughts. There's also the added benefit of efficiency when we sit down to meet. If the client is able to come up with the information in advance of our meeting, that saves the client time and ultimately makes my time and their time that we spend together more efficient. I had never met with this particular client before on any other matter. A lot of times when I do estate planning for people, I have seen them in other realms of their life and they come back to me for estate planning. But I was unfamiliar with this gentleman. Our first meeting together was an in-office appointment. It was it was during a period of time that I look back on nostalgically before COVID, where we could get together around a table, sit closely next to one another and not have face masks on. At my initial meeting with the client, I think that it's really important to spend some time just getting to know the client personally. This establishes a rapport and it builds trust, and it ensures that I have a solid understanding of the client's goal with their estate plan. In getting to know this particular client, I learned that he was an unmarried man, he had no significant other, and he had no children. He had a sibling who had children. And although he expressed love and affection for his sister and his nieces and nephews, he felt that because his sister was successful, they were well taken care of. And he knew that his sister would provide adequately for his nieces and nephews. So he wasn't inclined to leave the balance of his estate to his family members. As we spoke more, the client indicated to me that his favorite pastime was bicycle riding. And in particular, he loved riding on the Hockhocking-Adena bike path. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Hockhocking-Adena, it's an asphalt rail trail that starts in Nelsonville on Myers Street behind Rocky Boots and goes down all the way along US Route 50. The client was familiar with the fact that there's an advisory committee for the Hockhocking-Adena and ultimately decided that he would like to do something charitable with his estate plan to benefit the bike path. I researched a little bit to determine whether there was already an established not-for-profit organization that could be appropriate to recommend to the client, but could find none that he was satisfied with. This is where the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio came in. I reached out and spoke with Holly Shelton at FAO and told her about my client's goals. She informed me that the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio would be happy to help. We could establish a new fund for the client that he did not have to fully fund during his lifetime. This was really beneficial to him because although he wanted to do charitable giving, he really wanted to do that at the time of his death. But this fund could be established now during his lifetime and funded at his death. And the fund itself could be tailored to meet the client's goals and needs. After talking with Holly, I presented and pitched the idea to the client, and he absolutely loved the idea. Once he was on board to establish a fund, he came up with his own statement of what he wanted the fund to accomplish. He decided that he wanted his estate proceeds to go for the benefit of making capital improvements on the Hockhocking Adena. And in particular, this gentleman's from Logan, Ohio, and he indicated his frustration that he would have to put his bike in his car and take the bike down to Nelsonville where he could hop on the bike path down there. So he hoped that in some small way he could contribute to assisting bring the bike path through Logan. The next step was that Holly Shelton provided me with a form of fund agreement for my review. The client and I worked together to tailor the fund agreement to meet his needs and goals. Of course, the client wanted to make sure that the money that he was giving to the fund was held appropriate and appropriately expended. He wanted someone familiar with the bike path to be involved in the decision-making. He ultimately named the Hockhocking Adena Advisory Committee as the entity that would make the decision as to expenditures from the fund after his death. Once we had the fund agreement drafted the way that met his needs and in a way that made him feel comfortable that his goals would be met, we sent the fund agreement back to Holly at FAO for their review and approval. We were very excited to learn that all of our requested changes to the fund agreement form were approved by FAO. Next, we got together around the table with Holly Shelton, Kara Brooks, and the client to sign the fund agreement to establish the fund. And really, that was it. From start to finish, putting the estate plan together took very little time, and the process itself was really quite enjoyable for the client. He appreciated the fact that he could leave a legacy for his current and future lovers of the bike path, and was pleased that we could come up with a plan so very tailored to his goals. I cannot stress enough how easy it was to work with the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio. Every person that I contacted was a great help to us along the way. Charitable giving through estate planning is such an important tool for our communities. I sit on various charitable boards that are in a continuous fundraising cycle, and the question is often asked how to make the ask. I find that in the estate planning realm, the easiest way to make the ask is to include it on your initial estate planning intake checklist. One of the questions that is included on all of my various estate planning checklists is, do you want to do any charitable giving with your estate plan? People do not always think about charitable giving on their own, but when prompted, they realize that it is something that they want to do. Including on the checklist primes the pump. It sets the stage for me to have a discussion about charitable giving that the client is prepared to have. Of course, not everyone wants to do charitable giving, and many that do already have a specific charity in mind. But for those that want to do charitable giving and only have an idea what they would like to accomplish, the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio is just a wonderful partner to help your client meet their goals. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Abby. We really appreciate you being here today and just presenting about estate planning and just how easy it can be. We appreciate you being a champion of philanthropy and of your community. We do have time for a few questions for Abby or for FAO. Please send the questions in chat while we take a look at some of the estate planning services and tools the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio has readily available. We can help with legacy planning from start to finish. We can work directly with donors or with the professional advisors or all of it. And from researching the options from those charitable ideas to developing the preferred option and thus developing the language or the documentation to implementing the gift, that charitable dream when the plan is activated. FAO has a website dedicated to legacy planning, at ffao.giftlegacy.com, and we will be sending a follow-up so that you don't have to memorize. But on this website, you will find great tools for both donors and advisors, including donor stories, a planned gifts calculator that lets you test various giving scenarios, news and updates, ways to give, and I don't want to forget our estate planning guide. There are 2 options for the guide. It can be downloaded or received in the mail as a hard copy, or donors can utilize the online estate planning guide and even give others, like their professional advisors, permission to log in and view their progress. And there is no cost for this service. Mary Beth and I and all of the FAO team stand ready to assist with any charitable questions or needs you have. You can even just shoot us a 1 or 2 line email if you want us to research something, some kind of a charitable idea. If you have recommendations for future webinar topics or speakers, we would love to hear from you. And let's check out questions that have been submitted. We have a question. See, can multiple charitable gifts for different purposes be made through estate planning? And that is a great question. We actually do have an estate plan that was bequested, I guess, or made to the foundation with multiple purposes. So you can designate or establish a designated fund outlining multiple organizations to receive support. People who provide annual contributions to nonprofits often find designated funds are a perfect way to ensure their favorite organizations continue to receive annual gifts. And then they can designate in the estate plan that which nonprofits will be getting gifts through their estate plan, and the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio can make sure that that happens. When the estate plan does come to fruition, just note that we do due diligence. So if the nonprofit happens to have ceased to exist, we will find the closest nonprofit to the intent of the donor. Another question, can a gift made through estate planning, even if it's establishing a fund, be kept anonymous? And yes, it can. It's a great question. Anyone else have any questions for Abby or for the team? Abby, I know that when you and I talked, I thought it was interesting how you shared it isn't always easy to approach estate planning and charitable giving, but that it gets easier with experience. And it was interesting to me that you were a little hesitant in the beginning.
Yes, I would definitely say that going back to this question of how to ask about charitable giving, it just at first can feel uncomfortable to bring it up, because if somebody, are you going to put somebody in the position of feeling bad if they don't want to do charitable giving? But what I have found is, again, by putting that on my checklist, it's something that they are already ready for the question, so they know how they're going to answer. And in addition, it's just an easy lead in for me to ask the question. And really, over time, the more and more and more that I've asked people the same question, it has definitely gotten easier for me to ask the question in the first place.
I think it is a great idea to include it right in the paperwork as you begin to talk with people. Such a great thing to do. Anyone else have any questions or anything you want to share about your experiences with estate planning or recommendations? Well, thank you so much for joining everyone today. Abby, we appreciate you so much. We appreciate all you do for the foundation, for the Hocking County Community Fund. And oh, I did want to mention here at the very end that there is an opportunity to increase your impact. So the Foundation for Appalachia's I'm a Child of Appalachia Fund and the community foundation funds that I mentioned currently have a dollar for dollar matching opportunity available for gifts. I'm happy to work with you or your client. If you're interested in that, please reach out to me and I will provide more information about that. And of course, I will send follow-up information, the link to this webinar recording after the webinar. If there's anyone that you would like to share it with, you'll be able to do so. And we're happy to do that as well. Just let me know. Thanks everyone again for joining today. Have a great day.